Welcome to Urban Tech Connect 2021. I'm Derek Smith, the founder of Plugin South LA. The past year has been nothing less than epic, from a global pandemic to an emotionally charged presidential election year, social unrest around the killing of George Floyd. We've been through a lot. Thankfully, we're all fortunate to be here virtually in good health. While we could have postponed this year's conference, my gut feeling was to continue our mission more than ever to encourage and support the next generation of Black and Brown entrepreneurs, despite the challenges or hurdles that often get in the way for these folks to plug into relevant information, social capital, and resources that are critical to their ability to thrive, to grow, and to scale. Urban Tech Connect is about moving forward, showcasing and celebrating our collective talents as entrepreneurs, investors, and innovators, learning and supporting each other. This mission is the reason we are here today. Urban Tech Connect is a platform and community that celebrates what is possible. Our team has curated great insights and sessions featuring a talented group of entrepreneurs, investors, and tech pros over the next 3 days. As you'll quickly learn, not only are they talented, but they are recognized leaders. Yes, we have a lot of work to do still to close the gaps inhibiting Black and Brown startups. And we have to continue to focus on how we identify, empower, connect, and promote the talent that exists in our communities like South Los Angeles. In doing this, we can bridge the gaps that confront us when we look at the disparities in funding and capital resources targeted to Black and Brown entrepreneurial and innovation communities. Our tomorrow starts today. This year, we are introducing 2 new tracks with a focus on tech pros and investors. Prior conferences have focused specifically on early stage founders from Black and Brown communities. Tech pros and investors are of critical importance in realizing our mission and achieving our objective of launching the next Google from our communities. We have the ability, we just need to create the opportunity, stay focused, and execute. Lastly, this would not be possible without the dedication of the Urban Tech Connect conference team. We are especially thankful to our speakers, mentors, and partners, including Pledge LA, Verizon, MailChimp, Salesforce, ChowNow, and Snap. And without any further delay, I'm excited to introduce you to our hosts this year. Lauren Wampa, Director of Social Impact at Dave, a digital banking service, and McKeever Conwell, also known as Mac, the founder at Rare Breed Ventures. I love to welcome, Mac will be here on Wednesday and Thursday. Lauren is leading us today. So I'd love to welcome her to the stage, and I hope that you will welcome her as well to this community and as the host for this year. And let's get this program started. Thank you all for being here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Derek. I really appreciate that. I am so excited to be hosting this year's Urban Tech Connect. I was on a panel last year, and I guess I did really well. So Derek asked me back. So happy to be here. And we have an incredible agenda for y'all today. I mean, it is jam-packed with incredible speakers, incredible content, and as always, incredible opportunities to network. So just really quick, let me give you a quick rundown of what to expect today. So we have an incredible keynote by the illustrious founder and CEO of Blavity, Morgan Devon. We've got a panel with a few VZs, David Hall, Juliana Garazar, and Kai Bond. And starting at 11, you can start accessing the office hours that are powered by MailChimp. Simply schedule a one-on-one meeting with any tech executives, VCs, and mentors who've been here and done that. You can definitely book your office hours going to bit.ly/UTC office hours 2021, or just visit the office hours session in the hop-in. And you might be thinking, well, what are we going to do for lunch? Well, I have the answer for you. Chow Now is hosting a networking power lunch. I'm really excited for this. You can order your lunch, have it delivered, and connect with fellow attendees to power up for your workshops and networking opportunities in the afternoon. Speaking of workshops, we have some incredible workshops happening today. There's going to be an Ask Me Anything with Salesforce Ventures. So those of you looking for some coins, definitely hop into that. There will be a Fundamentals of Fundraising with Lewis Wharton from Stubbs, Alberton, and Markiles, LLP, and Obi from Unomi. We'll also have an incredible how to cultivate and collect collective VC capital with investors Marjorie Lopez Martinez, Lizette Tellez, and Ashley Aiden. And then again, do not forget to network. This is such an opportunity to meet with fellow attendees who are founders, investors, thought leaders all throughout the tech community here in Los Angeles and beyond. So definitely turn up in the chats, turn up on LinkedIn, make sure you're connecting with people. It will be really lit this whole week. So without further ado, I just want to thank you all again for having me as your host. I will be in and out of these sessions all day. I'll be turning up in the chat, so it'll be really fun. But next up, we have an amazing panel called Turning a World-Changing Startup Idea into Reality with Isaac Hayes III of Fanbase, Cheryl Contee from the Impact Seat, and the amazing host, Lauren Milan from Digital Undivided, who will be moderating. So without further ado, I will hand it over to the amazing Lauren Milan and take it away.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I appreciate it. As one who was the host last year, I can tell you you've already done an incredible job. For those of you who were here with me as your host last year, life is a little crazy and busy, but this conference means so much to me. So yes, I'm doing it from a car after another engagement, but I am here nonetheless and so excited to be with all of you. So again, I'm Lauren Milan. I'm so excited to be here. I'm hosting this conversation. I do serve as CEO at Digital Undivided. We are the social startup, nonprofit, public charity leading the global shift towards inclusive entrepreneurship and innovation for Black and Latinx innovators and entrepreneurs. Our work is so dear to my heart as a woman who spent 8 years as a single mom, no more, thank goodness, for the last 5 years. But I know very intimately, very deeply how hard it is for women of color to succeed, to win, to grow, to lead, let alone to pivot in our personal spaces and in our career. And I know how much more difficult those hurdles become when we start talking about industries that are not designed for our success, and industries that continue to underestimate us. And so therefore we continue to be underrepresented in a lot of these spaces. And so entrepreneurship is where a lot of us turn. I often say that entrepreneurship for people of color, not just women of color, is not the same luxury that it is for the non-minority, because it is often our only choice. It is often what we are forced to do with our back against the wall, or with circumstances that are outside of our control. And so I'm so excited to be in this conversation today with Cheryl Contee, a dear friend for a very long time. And she'll come in and we'll chat about that. Funny enough, Digital Undivided brought us together 9 years ago. And also with Isaac Hayes III. So, we're going to chat today about what it takes to just take your idea and make it into a startup reality. But because I have Cheryl here, I'm going to say, hey, girl, hey, it's been so long. How are you, my love? My beauty.
I'm so good. You look gorgeous, as ever. You bring brains and beauty, to VC. Somebody's got to. It's great to be with you.
So good to see you. Isaac, it is awesome to meet you here. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. So, Cheryl and I have a little bit of history. So I'm going to kick it off a little different with her because I know her a little better. So I'm going to take it back just a minute. Cheryl, I want you to please introduce your greatness as the impact officer at Impact Seat, the chief impact officer at Impact Seat. But I have watched you grind, build, create, innovate, code, solve, build, and do it all over again. So I would love for you to just go ahead and introduce yourself. But I think this is sincerely a full circle moment for me, because we met through Digital Undivided. I actually don't even remember which conference in which city, but I will never forget our time at Spelman together, where I judged Jewel of Part Pick, which has gone on to also be just a wonderful star in the ecosystem. And so it's just amazing to see you. And I would love for you to just kick off and tell everyone how fabulous you are. Ladies first, Isaac, and then come right to you.
Absolutely.
Well, Lauren, yeah, we met when I was on the grind and on that hustle with my startup. Attentively was a startup focused on marketing automation, influencer engagement, and social listening for the cause sector. Through Digital Undivided, I was, working to inspire other entrepreneurs, who were a little behind me. You gave me a lot of great advice that we ended up using. And like Joel Burke of Part Pick, who was acquired by Amazon, Attentively actually became the first tech startup with a Black female founder on board, me, to be acquired by a NASDAQ company, Blackbaud. And I'm really proud that it was an impact startup that was acquired by an impact corporation, showing that a new economy is really possible. So now I have actually crossed over from entrepreneur to VC. Here at the impact seat, my role is very much, giving back. It's all about mentoring the over 60 portfolio companies that all have female founders on board, including many women of color. We are also invested in 15 funds that focus on women-owned businesses because, and through those funds, there's like dozens more companies, and my role is to bring value to all of our portfolio. And that means mentoring, shaping, encouraging, bringing resources beyond just money to the table.
I love it. And I just love to see the evolution. And so I want to just highlight this for all of you listening in our audience, whether you're here with us live right now. And if you are, I'm going to be looking I will be looking at the comments. So look at all you. Hi, everybody. New York, LA. What's up? DTLA checking in. I'm going to keep looking at the chat. So please, when and if you have questions, drop them there. If we were in real life, I'd be looking at you all in the audience and just calling on one of you, which I can't do. So please continue to put your questions in the chat. But I think a lot of what we are here to do is to find ways to lead and to continue being leaders and innovators however we can. And I will, before asking Isaac to introduce himself, I just want to say, I think this is, for those of you especially listening, a very interesting time. When I met Cheryl, when we started out in this world, this industry, I'll date myself, 17 years ago as an entrepreneur, 12 years ago or so in tech proper and in VC, there wasn't this opportunity to even translate the skills from your own business to corporate or from your own business to a VC. And so while the progress is still insanely slow, frustratingly slow, I'm always so lit up to see women like Cheryl Contee and so many others like Jewel Burke who have been able to take that entrepreneurial experience and flip it into something bigger and better. Because when we started, entrepreneurship was the biggest thing you could do. And the tables have turned a bit, but we're going to learn how to navigate those tables, even though they keep flipping on us, because that's what we do well as people of color. So Isaac Hayes III, CEO of Fanbase, come on in. Financial freedom. Show them your shirt.
Absolutely. Financial freedom is the new black.
Is the new,
that's
the whole thing.
Black.
Yes. Financial freedom is the new black. Yes, it is, because we can finally make some decisions and call them our own. So it is so good to meet you. Please come on in and tell the world about your greatness and what led you to being CEO of Fanbase, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, I'm just a guy that has been a career entrepreneur. I started out in the music industry about dating myself 20 years ago as a songwriter producer. And my father was a legendary singer by the name of Isaac Hayes, and he passed away in 2008. And about 2013, I started managing his estate, but still had time to participate in music. But I've always used social media. I've been on, most platforms. I've always been enamored with social media. and loved it. So I was on, MySpace and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all that. But having known about 20 years of social media from the time that Black Planet was founded, all the way up to now we're in 2021, I noticed that a couple of things, that creators and all the users that use social media don't make any money. We leverage, they leverage our entire user base to run ads and then give the community nothing, to the tune of about, I think, $90 billion between Facebook and Instagram alone. In 2019, they made $90 billion worth of ad revenue and passed none of that on to the user base. So in 2018, I saw a young kid go viral dancing in a Spider-Man costume in a GameStop to Aha Take on Me. Young Black kid from Memphis, goes by the name of Ghetto Spider. At the time he went viral. He got up to like 300,000 followers real quick. And I reached out to him and said, congratulations. I was born in Memphis. I've lived in Atlanta my whole life. So shout out to you guys for going to Spelman. And Jewel Burks is like one of my good friends in tech. So one of my mentors, love her. So anyway, this kid was like caught in a deer in headlights. Like, he didn't know what to do with this moment of fame and monetize it. He immediately asked me if I was a manager repeatedly. And I was like, no, I'm not. I manage some other things, but, let's have a conversation. He wanted to come to Atlanta. He was like, I'm down. And I left that conversation like, wow, he can't monetize Spider-Man. That's Marvel. It's Disney. But he should be able to monetize his dancing. As a matter of fact, everybody should be able to monetize everything that we do on social media. If we take a photo, if we go live, if we post a story, whatever it is, we should be able to do that. And so that was the invention and the idea of Fanbase. And so that's how I came to found the company in 2018, and really left it in beta for like about a year, all the way till 2020. And then the pandemic hit, and then that changed everything. But that's later in the conversation today. We can talk about that.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. And I see some comments here in the chat. Black Planet, like flashback for y'all. Everybody can date yourself if you know what Black Planet is. Okay.
2001.
On you. And then someone else says, I love the Isaac Hayes cookbook. And I will say that I had some wonderful moments with your father when my mom was director of corporate PR at Essence Magazine for many, many years. So, it was incredible to see him in action, and really awesome to see you take so much of kind of protecting what creators like your father were creating and known to create, and to find ways to monetize it, since the rules of engagement have changed.
Absolutely.
So awesome. And I just want to make the clarification. I did not go to Spelman. Cheryl, did you go to Spelman? No.
I did not go to Spelman.
Okay.
I went to Yale, but my father was a professor at Howard. I definitely have mad love for the HBCUs. What?
I thought I heard you guys say Spelman. What did I hear?
We did. But I know that if we have any Spelman women in the audience, they're going to be like, Lauren did not go to Spelman. So I just want to make it clear.
I thought I heard you guys say you went to
No,
Spelman.
we did. No, you're right. We did a talk. We did a whole
Oh, you did a talk
basically at Spelman via Digital Undivided. So it's all about giving back.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, and actually, Jewel was my mentee back in the day.
Dope.
And she was part of a pitch competition that ended that conference. And that was her, I want to say maybe either her first or the first one where she got the sum of money that we gave. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was $10,000. And so I was one of the judges there. This was eons ago. I don't know, 8 years ago, Cheryl? How long?
It's all a blur in the before
I don't know.
times.
Anyway, it is totally a blur, but a long time ago, so long ago that our memory is fuzzy. But just wanted to make that clarification there. But loving all the information coming out of Spelman.
Yeah, and what's great about Jewel's story is, I'm following in her footsteps. She was an entrepreneur, and now she's leading Google for startups. And really helping to bring more diverse founders into the ecosystem. So for all of you out there, once you make your big break, you entrepreneurs, I hope that you will find ways to give back to those coming behind you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to just dive right in. We are talking about what it takes to turn, a great game changing idea into a reality as a startup. And it's interesting because even though I've been doing this for a very long time, all things considered, nearly half of my life, my gosh, and I'm not but 36, so y'all don't get carried away trying to calculate some other kind of ages. But what's been most interesting is how much I thought I knew. And coming into the role last year to serve as CEO at Digital Undivided, where I moved from chairing our board of directors, there is so much under the hood on an everyday basis. And it is so different the way that, entrepreneurs are bringing their ideas to life, so different the types of ideas that, are the shower ideas. By the way, shower ideas have like completely changed. The ideas I used to hear were like, I want to have a fashion company, or I want to have a makeup company, or something that was pretty predictable. And what's really exciting me is seeing deep innovation come out of people of color, deep solutions that are more than lifestyle solutions. And there's nothing wrong with lifestyle solutions, but I'm really fired up seeing us inch more and more into deep technology, into engineering, into AI, into VR, into all these sorts of things. So I just want to kick it off by asking you all, and I'll start with Cheryl, what are you seeing in terms of the ideas that are bubbling up, and what do you think it's taking right now to take that idea and turn it into a viable startup? And then Isaac, you're up next, because I want your take on this from your POV.
There are all kinds of ideas that are popping up, and I agree with you that people from the STEM community who happen to be Black, are very much seeing opportunities to create businesses. They're seeing gaps in products or services and saying, I can do that. So for example, a company that's in our portfolio or might be in our portfolio, Blood Freeze. Blood Freeze is all about it's a device that solves the problem of nosebleeds. And the founder, is a doctor herself who was just seeing things come into the ER and saying, like, look, this is a big problem for folks, and people shouldn't have to come to the ER for chronic or serious nosebleeds. I think I know what to do, and I have a solution. So that's been really exciting. And then in terms of, I think your question was, how do you bring it to reality? What's the next step?
Yeah, like in this day and age, how are you suggesting or seeing most kind of frequently used as like the path forward, or the path to market, or the path to beta, to kind of testing viability around those ideas?
Absolutely. Well, it's not just about the product being a good product, or a good service or a good idea. That's important. You have to start there with the crystal of an idea, but you need a solid business strategy surrounding that, right? It's about a product that has the right price point, with the right sales strategy, with the right team, delivering it to the right market. It's all of those assets of a business. And so, the pandemic is actually a time in which, people have been laid off, or people are reevaluating their entire existence. This is a really exciting time, I think, to, start to bring your tech to market at a time when people really want to invest. There's more money now than ever. When I was just starting out, 10 or 12 years ago with Attentively, there weren't as many angel funds or investors who were really interested and focused on Black businesses. A lot has changed, between the movement for Black Lives, which is actually a client of mine over at my digital agency. I'm a serial entrepreneur, which is like probably some sort of disease. So I actually have a whole other company that's still running. But the movement for Black Lives, I think really changed the culture, particularly in corporate culture, where they said, we actually have been overlooking Black businesses, and they're leaning in. Now some of that is, is it blackwashing? Is it just giving a little money and not actually, bringing it forward, in terms of, suppliers, investing in businesses? Sure, there's a little bit of that. But I would say there is so much more capital now than ever before that is being channeled towards Black startups. And, the good news is that the government, state and federal governments, are also trying to make funds and resources available to startups. So there's never been a better time in a lot of ways. And finally, what I can tell you is that I have seen in my work, I actually teach a course with the nonprofit tech network that's all about emerging tech. and its impact on social good. And, there's homework that, really encourages people to see the emerging tech that's already happening in their lives. And the homework that's coming back before the pandemic versus after the pandemic, revolutionary. Everyone, because of our need to survive, everyone has gotten so much better at the internet. And that includes you, listening. Like, you may not realize, how mad your internet skills are, but let me tell you, I know, because I've seen it, that, more than ever, and so does everyone else. And that creates a whole new opportunity, for marketplaces and ideas to find their place in those markets.
Love it. And by the way, having a whole nother company is not a disease, because, I have the same thing with my marketing agency, L&B Group. So last I checked, maybe it was just all in homage to Isaac's shirt about financial freedom. So I think multiple streams of revenue leads to that financial freedom. So not a disease. I'm just going to tell you what my dad, I said the other week to my father, I said, oh gosh, there's so much is happening. I'm so busy right now. I'm overwhelmed. And I'm going to tell you all what my daddy told me. This is for you, Cheryl, and all of you listening. He says, Lauren Christina, like I was a little girl, you are not overwhelmed. That is a negative connotation. If you are overwhelmed, some higher power is going to take it all away. So it is not a disease, Miss Cheryl, and we are not overwhelmed. We are blessed and prepared. On that note, Mr. Isaac,
yes.
What do you think it takes these days for an idea to become a viable business? And what are you seeing bubbling up that's coming your direction?
I think for an idea to become a viable business, you have to be persistent, right? I come from, the music industry where you're going to hear no a million times, right? You're going to hear this song isn't good enough. This beat isn't good enough. Try again, rewrite it, reproduce it. And you have to have, thick skin in that. You have to get used and comfortable with rejection, right? I think it really prepares you to weather the storm and getting an idea to fruition and never giving up. Persistence is probably the most important thing to have, the most important trait to have above anything, above talent, above genius, above education. All of these things is like just never giving up in what you're trying to do. I'm a first-time founder. And I was persistent even in, building this platform. And I see a lot of other people creating innovative products. But I know for certain their idea of how to reach a path to a beta or raising capital, that's where the struggle comes from. And I think now more than ever, there are opportunities. I am a product of the Jobs Act and using regulation crowdfunding to raise my capital for my startup, which is amazing for the Black community among many other communities. But the fact that the accredited investor rule has been lowered to allow people to invest in early stage companies opens the door for all of us to get funding for our companies, and really could be a model for the way that we fund our businesses and our communities. I have a tech company, which is fine, but that same model can be used to fund any type of business where the community or the investors can own part of that product and then be the only product that they use, be it a chain of grocery stores or any type of business or any type of product that you actually a shareholder in that product from the beginning, and then you're an advocate for that product. So I think that's really what now is on the rise as far as raising capital and getting your product to market. You got to have a great idea. You got to know your stuff. You got to have a way that this thing is going to make money. Eventually, at least be thinking about that. Some startups don't have that, but I feel like I came to market understanding, all right, how is this thing going to make money? And so that's really was my idea. I'm going to pay creators, but how we're going to be profitable too.
I love it. I love it. And so for those folks in our audience, and maybe Isaac, this is a good one for you to just pick up as you were sharing that you're a first-time founder. So for those in our audience, what are the steps to take this idea to becoming a business? What is the path forward towards getting up and running?
Well, for me, education first, right? And what I mean by that is learning, being a listener. Jewel was someone that I went to probably more times than she wanted me to ask questions about the tech space. I come from the music business. She's been in the tech space. Her Justin Dawkins and a guy named Barry Gibbons, all of them are partners in Collab Capital. They were the first people that I went to just to sit in front of and say, hey, I have an idea. What is the space like? What is venture capital like? What do I need? And they gave me the game, right? They taught me the game. They understood that part about it. Even if you have to have an idea, they taught me about, having a board or not having a board, raising capital, what your CTO means, like how important that is to have a CTO. And when you're raising capital, people understand that there's someone there that can build what you're thinking you can build. And I was blessed to find an amazing chief technology officer for Fanbase, and made that possible. So those are the steps. For one, is just learning the game. Two, I think, building your product in the way that you see fit to get it to market, however far you need to take it, a great deck, a great pitch deck, a great pitch, and a great vision, because most people that are investing in startups are not necessarily investing in the company. You're investing in the founder, right? You're investing in the person. Like, all right, can you do what you say you're going to do? And I've learned that, and I've gotten validation from people like Jewel and Barry and Justin. Like, look, in our community, we don't get $20 million investments with an idea written down on a napkin. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen for us. And so some people, I've seen people raise capital and not even have a prototype to show for it. So you really have to know your stuff. So, I treat it very, very seriously. This is a great opportunity to really take a dream and turn it into a reality. So that's one thing. And then finding how you're going to, raise capital for your company, but make sure you're doing it in a smart way. Learning this space, I've seen predatory term sheets for even small rounds of people trying to give you $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 and want 15% of your company. No, we shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't give away that amount of equity in your company for that small amount of revenue, which is why I even turned to equity crowdfunding, because again, I look at venture capitals like the record label. It's just what I look at it like. They put up all the money. They have a significant say so potentially in what you're building and what you're doing. And then what I did with equity crowdfunding and using the Reg CF regulation, that's like independent. I went independent and sold these shares out of the trunk of my car so far to the tune of $3.2 million in a seed round for my startup. So just knowing how you're going to raise the money and the best path forward of least resistance, because even in venture capital, people will tell you it's not a good idea. It's not going to work. And it's no different than anything that's ever been invented. There's never been anything invented or done in this world that someone said it wasn't going to work. So just be prepared for that. But again, to continue to be persistent and figure out your best path forward, especially when you're raising money, and how to maintain control of your vision and your dream.
You said it, Cheryl. As a serial entrepreneur in many ways, and now one who's at impact seat, in a major position, helping businesses not just turn ideas into businesses, but then beta businesses into bigger businesses into growth stage businesses. What is your advice for those listening on what it takes to turn their idea into a business and to keep it moving ahead? I think a lot of folks, it's like they think that arriving is getting to beta, but getting to beta is just scratching the surface, right? So what are you, what's your best advice these days on pushing ahead and building out your company?
Absolutely. I would agree, first with everything that Isaac said, like he really hit it on the head. You've got to socialize your idea. I think in the Black community, there's, sometimes this feeling like, oh, I don't want to put my business out in the street. Somebody might steal my idea. And let me tell you something. Okay. Most people are not as smart and are not as driven as you. So you don't have to worry, like no one's going to steal your idea. And in fact, there's probably already a competitor out there to your idea. The more you socialize your idea and talk to different kinds of people, and seek advice, the more that you are going to be able to shape your idea then, as you do that pitch deck. And, a pitch deck is like it's basically a business plan. So I certainly would encourage people to make that pitch deck. There's a ton. You're like, what is a pitch deck? How do I do it? Just Google it. Okay. Just put it in a search engine, like, top, how to do a pitch deck, top 10 pitch decks. There's lots of information about that online. And then, right, starting to, test your idea. If you can get a prototype together, or a minimum viable product, as we call it in Silicon Valley, MVP, just so that you can actually test your idea, with potential investors, or even customers. But then, right, once you've gotten all of, through that stage, you've got your Series A, you're rolling, you've got the challenge of growth and traction, right? And burn. Now, I have written about all of this in my Amazon best-selling book, Mechanical Bull, How You Can Achieve Startup Success. So I definitely would recommend that to folks. Oh, yep, here it is.
Let's everybody get it. There you go. All right.
There it is. How you can do it.
Mechanical Bull.
Yeah, and I wrote it because, it's the book that I wish that I'd had when I was starting out, and it really goes through the whole life cycle of a startup. So, no matter what stage you're at, there's something for you. And, the advice, in there is practical. It's also not just advice from me, but other investors, other founders, big and small companies. But, there's a whole chapters on growth and burn and traction. You have to prove, once you've, gotten, seed funding, your investors are going to be looking for, proof that this is gaining a market. And, you don't have to be, profitable necessarily. There's not necessarily that expectation for seed or even Series A companies to be, profitable out the gate, but you do have to show that, okay, we have a certain number of users and that's growing, we are, bringing in revenue, we are penetrating the market, we have great press and earned media, there are, certain benchmarks that investors are going to look for if they're going to put up then, that next round. And that also includes technology, right? Is that, is the tech, starting to develop in a way that, it might be acquired or you might get to IPO. So, a lot of that is looking at your team. I think that there are so many Black founders, we're so used to being an army of one, and pushing hard, as an individual. And yet any investor is going to tell you that you cannot do it alone. And it is a smart business person who understands both their strengths and their weaknesses. So for example, I'm not a details person. Okay. I'm a visionary, full stop. That said, because I understand, that I have my strengths as a visionary and I'm not great at actually doing anything ever, I surround myself with doers, I get them excited about here's what we can create together. And they just go and they're like, you're crazy. Let's do it. And they just do it, they manifest, so, you've got to find, and there are basically, 5 archetypes, right? There's the visionary, you've got the plan, the idea. There's the tech lead. You need a sales and marketing lead. You need a product lead, and if you're building something, they should have some experience in manufacturing. And then you've got your gray-haired advisor, someone who has done it before. So, Isaac talked about Jewel. I talked actually about Lauren. Lauren was one of my gray-haired advisors. Not that you have blonde hair. It's not gray. So, you want to make sure that you are building that team, and then that team, do you've got those KPIs, is everyone performing? If you are a startup, you have got to make decisions very quickly. Okay, because every day that you don't make a decision is a day you're burning resources and capital. So what I tell startup folks is, make a decision, synthesize as much data as you can, make the best decision that you possibly can with the information you have at hand, and then evaluate it in 6 to 8 weeks. If you're not seeing results, make a new decision. You've got to move absolutely quickly at lightning speed in order to keep up that momentum, to manage your burn and build traction.
I love it. I know we're running a little short on time, so I want to make sure I can get through our other questions that are going to be super valuable to our audience. So maybe in kind of rapid fire, what are the critical resources that we want to share with the startups and the founders who are in our audience? Kind of maybe your top 3 to 5 startup resources. I'll start with you, Cheryl, and then I'll pop to you, Isaac.
Well, I already mentioned my book, So it's pretty cheap. Anybody can get it on Amazon, $6.99 for the Kindle version. And I also would read. There are so many great resources like Recode, or The Verge, that focus on startups. So, educate yourself and get out there.
Love it. Isaac?
I'm a communicator, so reach out to people that are successful in, the space that you're trying to break through at, or even in the areas that you are. I have, there were 3 phenomenal women that made my raise on Start Engine possible. Dawn Dixon, who has a company called Popcom. She's raised $1 million 3 times through crowdfunding. Monique Idolet, who has a company called Rain Ventures, who suggested that I do crowdfunding, and Angela Benton, who has a company called Streamlytics, who was very successful on Start Engine. And those are resources too. I think, looking at people that have done the things that you do and know that you don't know it all, and you have to be a sponge and soak up as much information as possible. You can think but you have no idea, because these are spaces and places that function entirely different than what other business models, other business environments function as. It's not like regular corporate America. There's a different energy, a different language, a different attitude about that. And then for people that are definitely trying to raise capital again, I suggest you guys read about the Jobs Act. I think you need to check that out. It was a piece of legislation signed into law by Barack Obama and Joe Biden in 2012. Which lowered that accredited investor rule so that we can invest in these companies. It is an asset. It's something that I feel like our community can be taking full advantage of and realizing that. And then look at companies, crowdfunding companies like Start Engine. There's another one by the name of WeFunder, where you're able to actually get, funding for your startup. And you don't have to raise as much as I raise. I think you can raise as little as $100,000. And so if you need to try to get a beta done and you need enough to raise capital, and that's all you need to raise, it's really good, because you can go to your friends and family and the general public and actually get, capital for your company, but also they get equity in this startup of yours and become advocates for your success as well.
Yeah, 2 more quick resources. Angel List, that you're going to find other entrepreneurs and investors there. Same for F, as in Francis, S as in Sam, 6.com. Another great, social network, that's all about entrepreneurs and investors.
I love it. And I'll give my 3 tips really quick. One will be my book, The Path Redefined. So between my book and Mechanical Bull, Cheryl Contee's book, y'all should be on fire and ready to go. So The Path Redefined is out there for all of you. Subtitle is Getting to the Top on Your Own Terms. So I'm all about charting your own path and making it work and making it profitable. I will say that Digital Undivided is another wonderful resource, as is our Project Diane research report. So for those of you, whether you are a man or a woman, I see a lot of men also using our data and saying, I can't find the data on men of color, so I'm going to tell you what it is for women of color and work backwards. So Digital Undivided is a wonderful resource. We also have programs. We have programs at every kind of stage of the life cycle. We've just launched a fellowship program as well for companies at or near the $1 million mark, which is, for me, an inflection point of growth, either in capital raised or revenue generated. And then our Project Diane, I would say, is an incredible resource. Go to projectdiane.com and just learn more about our own ecosystem. We put a lot of facts and figures, and we have really transformed, broadened, and deepened our research in the last year as well. So a lot to really dig into and to pay attention to help you. There's a lot of information out in the world, as has been said by our panelists, but I think sometimes we shy away from that information, as opposed to understanding that it's easy homework for us so that we don't have to necessarily learn all of these lessons ourselves. So I encourage you to yes, go do some of that learning online too. Learning online is not what it used to be either. So it has a little more integrity than it did 15 years ago when you didn't know what exactly a credible source was. I see. Yes. Good. Yes. And then Google accelerators. That's awesome, Cheryl. I want to just wrap us up by asking each of you, Cheryl and Isaac, how are you defining disruptive, these buzzwords, disruptive and innovative these days? I would love your take on that.
Well, we're living through, disruption. I think we won't understand the impact of this time for 10 to 20 years, so the ultimate disruption, is happening. Again, I do think that opens up a lot of opportunity. There's that Chinese saying, where there's crisis, there is opportunity. So, the most disruptive thing that I see is, someone identifies a pain point that no one else has seen. They just have that clear vision, and all of a sudden, the world turns around. Uber would be an example of that, or Peloton. All of a sudden, Peloton was the thing that you needed. You needed to be Peloton in this new era and not SoulCycle. So try to think that way. And just because someone else hasn't created it, you see the pain point for a certain market that others don't, that doesn't mean that it's not valid. Trust your instincts and go for it.
I love it.
Absolutely. I agree. And pissing people off. And I say that if you're not pissing people off, if you're not frustrating people, right, in what you're building or doing, as far as that are competitors in your space, then you're doing it right. Then I'll give a couple of examples in the world of content monetization, right? You see how quickly all of these social networks are now trying to provide opportunities for people to monetize their content. In the last 365 days, Twitter's doing it. Facebook is doing it now. Instagram is doing it now. These are things that these companies have been around for a decade or longer, and they never offered monetization to users. But now that companies like Fanbase are starting to emerge, they see what's happening because they're 10, 11 years down the running ads path. And that's such a profitable business model for them that you have to be disruptive. And so what I like about what we're building is it's total disruption. The same thing for democratization of access to capital in the way that I raise money as opposed to venture capital. I don't think venture capital is too fond of equity crowdfunding because what tends to happen is it changes the leverage that you have, right? Fanbase was successful at raising $3.2 million and we're stopping at 3.5, but I could turn right back around and go raise another round. And what that does is it puts venture capital on notice too at the same time that might always not be the ultimate resource in the way that you can raise capital. Although venture capital is a good resource if you have a great partner, if you have someone that's going to help you expand your business, knows the landscape, has assets and resources to help you grow. They're great partners, but a lot of times that entry point into actually getting to capital is a little stiff and tough. And so they've been put on notice with platforms like Start Engine. So I always say that's being disruptive. Pissing people off is the key sign of disruption.
Love it.
Lauren, I think we're having a little trouble with your video. Did we have any questions out there did we have any questions that we can look?
We are at time. And for those of you, and my device.
Yeah, you're good now. You're back.
Yeah, now we can. Yes, there she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, there we are. I am tethering in a parked car because there was no way I could make it to my home or my office in time to do this. And so we are plugged in, tethering to a mobile device on a laptop and plugged in to the car console, and this MacBook is not keeping up.
Yeah,
so
single moms make it happen.
Single
moms make it happen. I'm a single mom too, so we make it work.
I'm not a single mom anymore. Ew.
Oh, that's right. Oh, well, congratulations. Congratulations. I know I remember when you used to be, so congratulations.
Oh my God.
The hustle, that instinctual hustle will always be there. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Thank you so much. Cheryl, Isaac, you've been incredible. Thank you to all of you joining and listening in the audience. Stay tuned. I know that there is a lot of incredible programming coming today, the rest of the conference. The other Lauren will come take it away. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.